to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for lending me your ears. Today, I want to give you a visual for change. That's a little different. A visual for change. I want you to imagine almost something like the Grand Canyon, just a deep hole somewhere, right? And on one side of the hole, you have your customer. And on the other end of that hole, on the other side, you have your solution. Now, your job is to bridge the gap between where the customer is and where your solution will take them if they buy from you. Now, if you have this visual in mind, you know that the gap, that's what it's called, the gap between where they are and where they need to be is very deep. That perception, that depth is what really concerns the client. So if you think about this from a psychological standpoint, our job within our presentation is obviously to talk about the features, the benefits, the advantages, all those things we've talked about in the past. But let me give you 4 parameters that you need to include in your presentation in order to get that person to kind of move to the other side. In fact, every time you hit one of these parameters, I want you to imagine filling in that hole, that gap, that Grand Canyon. And our goal is to fill it up so that the customer can walk right across to the other side. What is the first one when it comes to change and parameters? The first one is time. How much time is this going to take? In other words, if I buy your product or service, how much time is it going to take to implement? There's a phrase called time to value. If I do change over or I do decide to use your product or service, what's my time to value? How long will it take me before I can utilize this product or service to my advantage and I can see the return on investment? So again, think of a time frame. What's the time frame that you will give them to be effective? And again, it doesn't have to be ROI time frame, like this is when you'll get your money back. In many cases, you just want to get them to value, which means you just want them to ramp up to a point where they can be successful in using this new product or service. Do you have that in your presentation? If not, maybe you want to put it in there. Number 2, money is always an issue. So what's the cost? Now, there's the price you pay and the cost you absorb for implementing something. Price is a one-time thing. Total cost of ownership, actually implementing the solution, there's a cost associated with that. And a lot of people don't think about this, but the customers are constantly thinking about, yes, I'll buy your product and service and I'll pay a price. The question is, what's the cost to me? For example, if I have to train people, that's cost. If it takes them a while to ramp up, time to value, that's added cost. If I have some delays because of your new product or service that I'm implementing, that's also going to cost me something. It may even cost me customers because, again, I lost the business. So think of cost and really keep that in mind. What's the cost in terms of money as well? Now, effort. Let's talk effort. Effort's a big one because how much effort will it require for me to implement your solution? This is important. Effort is the amount of time I or my team will have to dedicate to implement this new solution. So this is important to really try to let them know that you want to minimize the amount of perceived effort they're going to have to make. If I'm talking to you and I'm trying to sell you on a product or service, I'm going to talk about time. I'm going to talk about money. But I'm also going to talk about how much work you'll have to do to implement this and how much it's going to require of your team to actually put this in place. And I think this is important. So you got time, you got money, right? You got effort. And then here's the big one. You have to give them the confidence. Oh, we overlook this one all the time. Confidence is you have to let the customer know you can do it. This will work for you. Sometimes a customer will see a product and say, I get it. That probably works for somebody else, but I don't know if it'll work for us or me. Our job is to give them the confidence to say, it's going to work for you. It's worked for them, and it'll work for you. So how do you do that in your presentation? For example, here's one strategy. If you're doing a product demo, let's say it's a SaaS product, right? And you're doing an online demo, what you want to do is walk the client or the prospect through a sequence that they would probably use if they were trying to extract information from the system. For example, maybe they want to run a dashboard report on, let's say, how their salespeople are performing in the field. Well, what you could do is say, Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, here's how you do it. Click, drag, drop, cut, paste, click there, and bam, a report is generated in 5-6 easy clicks. Again, walk them through a day in the life of how they would use it. That gives them the confidence that they can use it themselves. And again, having that confidence is a big hurdle towards getting them to change. So think about it. If we can talk about time, let's go through the 4 parameters again. If we can let them know that, first of all, it's not going to take a lot of time and the time invested will be worth it, they'll do it. We talk about money. Remember, there's price and then there's cost. Price is the one-time thing. What's it really going to cost me? The client's thinking. So what you want to do is explain the cost and the impact. And again, our job is to minimize that. Third, effort. How much effort is it going to require? Effort is basically how much work am I going to have to do or my team is going to have to do in order for us to implement this solution. And last but not least, this is the one that's always overlooked, so I'm giving it the emphasis, is confidence. You have to give them the confidence that they can do it themselves, that they can really implement it on their own, and they'll be successful using your product or service. And if you can do those 4 things, along with talking about your features and your benefits and your advantages and your gains, layer this on top of that time, money, again, effort and cost, and really hit those parameters, I think you'll see a shift in your closing conversion / close rate. Anyway, that's it for the Sales Influence Podcast. Leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this. Also, if you haven't checked out the Sales Velocity Academy, I invite you to check it out. We got some great new courses. We even added a series called Fast Classes. So if you don't have a lot of time to spend, guess what? You can look at these fast classes in 15, 20 minutes, get the information you want. And on that note, this is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selenate hard when you know how. Take care.
Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.